Thank you so much. My name is Yana Peel, and I am truly thrilled to be here on Paula's very, very kind invitation in such esteemed company. Before I begin, since I've been outed, how many people actually met Paula at a conference in this room? Great. Ironically, as I left the house this morning, I told my 10-year-old that I'd be here at the Salon on conferences at MoMA, and he said, "You'll be talking at a talk on talks." Wow, Mom, that is so meta. And so here I am today. What I thought I'd do with so many conference visionaries and, of course, veterans in this room, what I thought I'd do is really focus on what makes us unique, what defines our brand in an era where there are so many events on offer to the group, so charmingly defined by Michael Hirshhorn in New Yorker magazine as the cluster Fakwazi. Now, Intelligence Squared does not actually hold conferences, but what we do is fill large auditoriums of thousands with confrontational conversations and debates. We're also enjoyed now by millions on podcasts, on YouTube, on any platform where you would come out to hear whether the West should get out of bed with the House of Saud or Napoleon really was all that great. But of course, with that said, not all of our events are created equal. And what I'd love to do this evening is to tell you what works, what doesn't work, and what goes into the secret sauce. By way of background, Intelligence Squared was started in 2002 by two journalists in London. They were keen to bring debate out of the Cambridge Union, where incidentally, debating societies were founded in 1815, and apparently in universities there's lots of ideas having sex. So we've moved from that. But the ideas over the years in London became very popular in terms of challenging preconceptions. It was the Times that said that this was an urban sport for urban intellectuals, and the press suggested that really the debates contributed so much to the life of the nation, a nation that of course had become quite self-selecting in its media consumption. This confirmation bias, I know, is something that would never happen here in New York. What we did is I moved from London to Hong Kong in 2008 and decided it would be a great idea to work with the founders in bringing that idea to Asia. Having worked at Goldman Sachs, I knew that there were many big budget conferences on offer, but there really wasn't much for self-reflection with high-level speakers at a price point of about $25 per head. Our audiences grew. We were fortunate to gain traction in Singapore and Shanghai, where we would debate whether China picks better leaders than the West, or contemporary art excludes the 99%. I remember one moment in Jaipur at the Literary Festival. That was probably a record with 15,000 free participants sitting on the floor debating whether capitalism has lost its way. Actually, maybe that's a motion we should restage with Thomas Piketty when we have him in May. The success led to this opportunity to buy out the company 3 years ago, which I did with two like-minded friends. And we're fortunate now to have 30 events selling out a year in London to these thousands of people, and also to have events on 4 other continents, which we do through franchisees who are often like-minded fans and friends. Now, hopefully, some of you will have been to the Intelligence Squared debates here in New York, where we're lucky to have had a partner in the Bob Rosencrantz Foundation for many years. For those of us who haven't been in the audience or been on the stage, I have prepared a very brief video, which is one of the rare moments of short-form content from Intelligence Squared.
It's not a joke, it's not a game, it's not just a debate.
It's an occupying spirit that cannot be stopped.
As the former Attorney General and prosecutor, the governor of that state, I not only accept your challenge, you are dead wrong, sir.
We cannot talk seriously. You know, this is not 1989 anymore.
I wonder whether when they say, "I'll pray for you," he gives that wonderful reply, "I'll think for you."
Whether or not I'm selfish or wearing a hat is redundant.
No, I won't say. It's too easy to say better late than never. Here, I said it. A lot of people in this world are looking for an alternative approach.
We never dropped a bomb, we never launched a missile, we never fired a bullet.
I doubt very much whether there will be genuine one man, one vote, but I would be delighted to be proven wrong.
And whether you like it or not, the internet is going to happen worldwide and all these people are going to join us.
If we mess up this one, there's no other word. We're done for.
We should be calling an end to the war on drugs.
What we need to do is rebalance not just our bankers' mentality, but the whole of our society.
Of course hip-hop enhances society.
We have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
Barack Obama is ultimately an American patriot.
The Catholic Church is a force for good in the world.
Are you getting the message? There is a reason we hammer home these issues, because they matter.
Following Jane and Stephen Fry. It's really quite the challenge, but we're up for that challenge at Intelligence Squared. Speaking of challenges, when I received the call from Paula to come and speak here in such esteemed company, I was living the type of week that probably typifies most of the event environment today. This is #humblebrag coming up, so if you want to take a break and hit the iPhones, this is probably the best moment to do it. I was in London wrapping up 3 events that we'd had with Intelligence Squared that week. On the Monday, it was Walter Isaacson and a great group debating whether robots would be taking our jobs. On Wednesday, Mohammed Yunus with Carol Daniels discussing social business. On the Thursday, on who else but Douglas Copeland and Hans-Ulrich Obrist on the extreme present. I was getting ready to step into the Future of Work conference that Arianna Huffington was hosting with the World Post, and to jump on a plane on Saturday to head to our debate in Hong Kong, where I wish we had had Sarah, debating at Art Basel whether the art world is a boys' club, as are so many others around the world. In my inbox, I was fortunate to have a Zeitgeist invitation for Google in May, and also a TED invitation for TED Women in Monterey, which very sadly conflicted with the World Economic Forum gathering in Cape Town. With that said, I was coming back to New York on the Monday, where we'd be launching our Vanity Fair conference, Digital Summit, and also the Lincoln Center Global Exchange, which, by the way, will be held this September ahead of the UN General Assembly and the Clinton Global Initiative, the conferences to end all conferences. So when Paula said, will you come and speak at this R&D Salon, meta was certainly the word that came to mind, but I thought it was really a terrific moment. So what I'd love to do is just address you as this very sophisticated audience to tell you what we do when we self-reflect at Intelligence Squared about what makes for a great event. And our self-crit is really worthy of an MFA class at Yale. We think that really enables us to raise the caliber of our events, but also to provide creative solutions for corporates, and these clients will range from Google to Barclays to NGOs like Save the Children and Interpeace, all looking for ways to debate, discuss ideas at arm's length, never white-labeled. So here's part 3 in terms of what I think makes for a great event at Intelligence Squared, and I've distilled it down to 3 Ds for ease. Unlike why one sells art at auctions, those are not death, debt, and divorce. Our 3 Ds are diversity, democracy, and drama. I think starting with democracy, or rather diversity, this means more than just never having 6 white male sages on a stage. This is with all due respect to the white male sages that we have had for many years, some of whom we saw in this presentation. Of course, we work very hard for that gender diversity. It's really tough. For every 1 speaker who is male, we'll invite 2. For every woman, it's usually 4 to 5. I was actually at Yale yesterday, and the president of the student union, she mentioned that they've done analysis, and that when there is diversity, when there are women in their discussions at the union, they get a much richer Q&A. So hopefully, with this group, we're going to be here all night. Now, of course, we also try to get a diverse, varied group of moderators, and that means for us the Jeremy Paxman, Jonathan Freeland, Zainab Badawi combinations that will really eke out the best questions from the group. And the group and its diversity is also of utmost importance, which is why we charge relatively low levels, why we try to engage as broad audience as we can, and why we also vary the topics. One week you will have the elders with Desmond Tutu and Mary Robinson. The next, a debate on Margaret Thatcher. In fact, in that hip-hop debate, we tried so hard to get diversity that PJ O'Rourke came on, sandwiched between Jaron Lanier and Q-Tip, and said, "What the F am I doing here?" So we strive for that diversity, we strive for that audience, and that leaves me to the audience and to democracy. It really matters. The opinions of our audience really matter at Intelligence Squared. We vote when we come in, we vote when we come out. Although we adhere to the Woodrow Wilson principle of peace without victors in London, I know that the debates in New York suggest that he or she who has the greatest swing wins. Now, these swings are often most impressive when there is a very strong call to action. Foreign powers shouldn't intervene in the Middle East. Democracy isn't for all. Sometimes it gets more educational and less incendiary, although maybe this is one we should do at MoMA, when museums are bad at telling us why art matters, are the kind of motions that we present. Apropos incendiary, the final D is drama. Sometimes that drama is intentional and sometimes it's not. We've achieved some pretty spectacular moments by staging events that have very unexpected combinations, that have improbable pairings that no sane person would ever think could work, and sometimes do. Stephen Fry, a long friend of the organization, came onto our stage at the Royal Opera House 6 months ago to debate with a 64-piece orchestra whether Wagner or Verdi was the greatest musician of all time. Well, there we go. We also have had a history series where we've put everyone from Napoleon to Putin in the dock. We've staged all-female debates, which you may have seen on BBC World from China. The hand that rocks the cradle cannot rock the boardroom. And of course, before Kim Kardashian, we think we nearly broke the internet when the late Christopher Hitchens and Stephen Fry came on board to suggest that the Catholic Church wasn't a force for good in the world. Sometimes that drama is more spontaneous. There was that debate in Hong Kong where the Singaporean cross-dressing artist Ming Wong decided to take off his clothes to suggest that art must not necessarily be beautiful. There was also the moment when we tried to have a constructive conversation about whether Israel is destroying itself with its settlement policy, and you can guess that that became a very impassioned moment with lots of blogging going on thereafter. Sometimes that drama is spontaneous and it works. One of the greatest moments did happen at that Muhammad Yunus event when a 10-year-old boy stood up 5 minutes before the closing and said, "With all due respect, Professor Yunus, if we are all entrepreneurs, who is doing the work?" Muhammad Yunus thought, and he said, "Well, we're all partners in this, young man." And he said, "Isn't that communism?" So sometimes some unexpected drama also works. Now, I am going to finish off by telling you how much of a techno-optimist I am, and that I believe that the live event, as evidenced here with Paolo's fabulous Salon, will really thrive in the digital age. Hopefully some of you may have come across my favorite book of recent weeks, which is The Second Machine Age by Bjorn Olufsen and McAfee. And there's ideas of exponential growth in spread and bounty, in content and in consumption. I think it's a challenge for all of us as content creators, as it is for musicians, journalists, and authors, to feed the spread in demand with the bounty that we can bring to the world. Yet, I think it's this reach that we often use as the currency with which to pay our speakers, in lieu of the monetary gains that drive so many other motivations in other fields. Why is it that Mary Beard and Boris Johnson will be facing off at Intelligence Squared in 3 months? Because we suggested, what about Greeks versus Romans? And when Boris Johnson said, will that be a self-selecting group, we thought, why don't we also open it to 150 cinemas around the world? So we think that the mission remains to bring great debate about the most important issues of the day to the widest possible audiences. The challenge remains quality in terms of maintaining standards as we move from Santiago to Tel Aviv. The challenge is also in expanding the distribution to as many platforms as you would like to listen to discussions on whether Barack Obama is the greatest president since FDR. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that I've answered some of your questions. I also very much look forward to the Q&A, which is always, always my favorite part. I think it's always better to debate a question and leave it unanswered than to answer a question without a great debate. Thank you, Paula.